Moving over to the topic of today, which is a culture clash. It's going to end up to be a battle, of course. As you can foresee, there's a couple of things and topics that I think we can expose today. By all means, please, I will kindly ask you to contribute with the questions towards the Q&A. Let's make it spicy. Let's make it informal. Let's make it real. Let's make it careful with the diversity and inclusion topics. Nevertheless, we really want to see the situations and the topics that are part of your daily basis and that we want to help you resolve. And that's the very same reason why we have chosen one of the speakers and two of the speakers that we are all together. The first one is Loic from ProductBoard. So Loic, if you can enter the stage. Loic is an SVP of engineering at ProductBoard, and basically he's leading a couple of divisions. One of the things is that the reason why we chose these two people is that they are both part of the unicorn ecosystem. Let's put it this way. And I believe what's in your background is as well the DocuSign experience, right? Which is the thing that most of us are using with the remote and etc. So pretty huge achievement here. And the second person, of course, is David. So if you can please join us on the stage. David, on the other hand, is the person with whom I think most of us. By the way, who's buying groceries from Rohlik CZ? Oh, Jesus. So I think we are pretty successful here as well. Nevertheless, David was part of things like ShopChat, Kiwi.com, and SpaceX, I guess. So I think we have very good people and the right people here on stage to see their basically reactions, topics, and witnessing their insights regarding this topic. So with that in mind, I think we can start and right into the topics. What do you say, Amy?
Absolutely, and also you can join Slido if you can see the QR code or use ELC meetup hashtag to join. You can ask questions. If possible, you can add a name, if David or Loic or both of them. And we will have a big Q&A at the end of the panel discussion.
Thank you. Basically, one of the things that we want to start with is if you can, guys, tell us something around, your top-notch experience, which was a little bit provocative or the most surprising throughout your career when you met yourself in terms of the different culture. So what it really was and what was your reaction, basically?
So yeah, I can start. So first, disclaimer, I'm French, I'm very direct, and I took a beer. So I would say take everything with a grain of salt.
We are compatible.
Yeah, and there's some folks from ProductBoard, so keep me honest, okay? So first, cultural shock. So first, I come from France. You probably have noticed that my accent is not exactly Californian, but I work in San Francisco. And did 10 years in France before moving there. So I have a lot of stories about the cultural differences that are pretty interesting. And maybe the one that was the most surprising to me, especially coming in a valley, in the Silicon Valley, was the different type of engagement that people are making in Europe and in the valley. In my teams in Europe, after 6 p.m., everyone was gone. Everyone was working on their kids and their family or friends and whatever, and nowhere to get them on Slack. It's just a big no-no.
I think France is really special about the social system, right? And you work 7 hours, 7 hours a day.
Yeah, it's even forbidden, to expect from your employee to be on Slack after 6 p.m. So that's a different story.
Wow, let's move there.
And then I moved to the US, and totally different story. You expect every engineer to be available basically all the time, on weekends and everything, and they should answer on Slack. So that was a really cultural shock. And the fun stuff was that I basically made someone from the US to come in my team in Paris so that they can experience our different ways of working. And the first reaction was you guys are lazy. I was like, what do you mean? I mean, you start at 9, you take a coffee, you take 1 hour for the lunch. So that was the first reaction. And then after 3 months, he was like, holy shit, I don't know how you're doing it, but you're achieving a lot. And the main difference was, while the team was working from 9 to 6, the level of intensity was there. When I was in San Francisco, people were there from arguably 9. We might have like different experiences, but like until 7 and still on Slack at 11. But at the end of the day, it was a very fragmented work, and the level of outcome was exactly the same.
Wow.
So that was pretty surprising to me.
Perfect. Over to you, David.
Very, very similar experiences, and my good friend described it in the nice way that in Europe we work to live, and in US we live to work. And I believe that was a good characteristic. But even though I spent at that moment a few years in the US and had some US experiences, when I joined SpaceX, it was very unique because my first or second day, it was like 5, 6 p.m. So I was like, okay, maybe I should go home. My wife already called me twice, and it's like, nobody's leaving. Everybody's like, it was full house. Everybody was still working, focused. Like, okay, I will just wait until they leave. And around 7 p.m., they starting to kind of step up and leave. I was like, okay, finally we can leave. So I started wrapping up the work. Within 30 minutes, I was done. I packed my backpack and started to leave. I just saw the people coming back with their dinners. So very different culture.
So you've unpacked your backpack?
Yeah. I unpacked my backpack and joined them back.
So as you can see, these experiences are pretty similar, and I think it's nothing surprising. Me, myself, I was working in Silicon Valley for a couple of years as a principal architect. And one of the surprising things regarding the culture was that, do you know how the US men toilet looks like? Meaning it's not fully covered by the walls. And, in Europe, we usually have, the fully covered toilets, while in the US, you have certain space on top of, underneath on your legs. It's sort of surprising. I'm sorry to expose this maybe technical detail, but for me, it was really something to experience, especially where there are other people in the toilet. So yeah, that's one of the things.
Yeah, another thing that was really interesting, and probably like the first time where I was like, holy cow, like managing people, like as leaders, like managing people with a different culture, like you need to retrain yourself, you need to adapt to those new people. I had the chance to work with people from China, and like the person was just moving in France in that case. And I was explaining something that I wanted the guy to do, and I said, said, yes. And the outcome, or like the work that he provided to me, was totally not what I requested. I was like, what the fuck? Like, if you didn't understand me, it's like, no, sorry. I was like, what didn't you say to me? I was like, culturally, you're my boss. If I don't understand what you say, it's your fault. And I cannot just basically say that my boss is wrong. So I had to readapt my ways with that person, and basically to say, every time I was explaining something, I said, can you explain it back? And then he was explaining back, and then I was in a position to say, no, you're wrong. You didn't understand me. And so anyway, that was like something that I still have in mind now. Like when I come to a new culture, or like a new, like CZ, for example, I need to do my due diligence. I need to understand how people work before trying to apply my ways.
Nice.
Maybe one more thing that was probably the biggest differentiator for me when I compared how company, the labor approach the contract between the employee and the employer is in Czech, and probably in Europe it's super kind of complicated. You all know it. Like there are like certain notice periods, and you cannot let people go just for nothing, etc. When I came to US, there's only one sentence in your contract. Both parties agrees the employment is at will of each party. There's nothing else. Like once I have no will, no more employment. So it's making things much, much easier, I would say.
Perfect. So I think we settle up the ground pretty well. One thing that makes me surprising is that I have to get used to having a French person speaking English, because if you come to France and try to speak English, you might be getting a different reaction. So yeah, that's one of the things. By the way, I was studying French for something like 10 years, but these days I just understand, but not able to speak anymore. So yeah.
French anymore either, so.
Yeah, none of us speaks anymore French, right? So that's one of the things. Perfect. So moving over, Amy, do we want to have certain Q&As in between or not yet? Okay, so let's move to another topic, which is basically, can you guys tell us, I would say, your experience when it comes to, and I think we touched upon a little bit, the work-life balance in between the two, and whether it makes certain clashes when you are having sort of European versus US teams, eventually, the global teams, and how you deal with that on your senior level.
Maybe I can quickly start. The work-life balance topic was really interesting as I was going from my first company news, which was Microsoft, and then from Amazon to SpaceX or Netflix. At Microsoft, it was really major, big company, many years on the market. So people actually developed their style there, at least within my team, like almost 9 to 5 and no weekends, etc. But what was really interesting that even though you got great work-life balance, what was waking me up at the night is I felt like, okay, this is really the kind of dead-end job, right? Even though it was well-paid, big company, but I was like, okay, I can do it probably in 5 years, 10 years, it will still be the same. And then as I was kind of moving towards more kind of progressive companies, even Amazon at the time or SpaceX later, you can really feel it wasn't so much about the work-life balance, but it was more about like ownership of the domain or of the work that you are responsible for. So you either had to figure out the way how to make, I love how Oliver Louis from Kiwi actually called it first time, the work-life integration, or it would never work for you, because if you are on a mission to achieve something and to really push limits of yourself, of the product you are building and really make a dent,
yeah,
it's hard to build it with some sort of work-life balance because it's a constraint. So I needed to figure out a way how to integrate it with our lives and how to make it work. And I really like the name of it, the work-life integration. So, and now coming back to Europe 6 years ago, I really feel the same spirit in all of the kind of high potential aggressive companies that ProductBoard is or Rohlik or Shipang. It's the same thing. I don't think we can make something big unless we can have the full ownership. We can really deliver impactful things and find the work-life integration.
Yeah, thank you for that.
So I will reuse like the example of France, but for us there's no such thing that integration of work and life. Like it's very separated, and the way it appeared to me is when I came to the US, like people were inviting me to dinners with my wife and kids, and my wife was like, no fucking way. So we have like a really strong separation between the work community and the friends community. So, I mean, I'm not a sociologue, but like also societal, I didn't do like societal study, but clearly there's different cultures about like the way you mix stuff. And in France, your friends usually don't come from work, or like it's very exceptional. They come from university, they come from before. In the US, people are very community oriented. Community of the school, community of work, and they blend that, I would say, all together. So that was something that was like very surprising to me. Like the first time, I will always keep that in mind. Like the first dinner with my wife at work when my French company was acquired by DocuSign, and the CEO of DocuSign is coming, and it was like very formal, and she was like so not at ease. When we went back home, she said like, never again. So that's I would say one of the strongest difference is like this big separation. So we cannot just make rules, like it's like everywhere different. Yeah. And the other piece that is different is like, so sure, there's the cultural differences from like I would say the US and Europe, but there's also like from a startup in like the big banks. You work in a big bank, like work-life balance is probably better than in a startup. Because in a startup, the assumption is the company might die next month. And this is the type of mindset that you need to have. In a bank, probably not the same type of approach and work-life balance.
Yeah, so that's a pretty good example here. And I think one of the things that I enjoyed the most, seconding your answer, Loic, is that actually at Silicon Valley you can really experience the communities of similar meetups as we have, because there's loads of opportunities to meet with the right people and experience, and basically increasing your potential. As opposed to, in Europe, I would say we are just scratching the surface. That's my experience.
If I may add to it, I always found it super funny when we went to Mountain View to Beer House for a beer. That was my favorite beer place. And you would come there on Friday afternoon, and all the tables were literally booked. LinkedIn, Facebook, Google. so yeah, that was for me one of the best part of being in the Silicon Valley, because you can really meet amazing people working on amazing things. Not that you cannot do it here, but the density was just so amazing, and just present there, it was really cool.
Yeah, and on this, like, I think you're doing a great job, Marian, because I think this is one of the key pieces of the success of the Silicon Valley is exactly that. Like, you have access almost every night if you want to, and you want to get a bit above, move the barrier between work and life and spend a bit more of your time on work and on those like type of event. You have access to great people, different contexts, different ways of working, and that's what makes like the Silicon Valley successful, is because it's a concentration of people that want to, I would say, like work in the tech community. And I think that having like those type of events is what, as leaders, make us like, I would say, more insightful. Like learning about, like we talked like in the past, but like learning about the way David is working and what he's seeing. Like just having that discussion for me makes me a better person, like a better leader. And I think like having more opportunities like this makes a difference.
Yeah, and thank you for that. And just to second on that and double down on this topic, I think in the audience, we have one of the guys who was recently asking me a question throughout the mentoring, which was like, hey Marian, what is it that I should focus on when moving from one company to another as a CTO? And basically, what's the I would say the overarching thing that I would change if I could 10 years ahead? And the answer was simple. I missed the networking part, because we think that we are great at what we do in terms of technology and so on and so forth. That moves away because you start to basically owning the ownership, as we said, and making sure to collaborate towards the success. And with sort of a weaker networking, you can hardly succeed. Yeah. So perfect. By the way, one of the things that was my own experience, being at a pub at Mountain View, was that we got a window smashed in some geeky pub, because the thing is that we are the bastards. We are the ones who earn money, while compared to people who work at a gas station, there's a huge difference. And basically, we are increasing their, basically cost of living and so on and so forth. So sometimes you might see these differences sort of surface, and that's not sometimes very pleasant. Yeah.
I have one more pop.
Yeah.
Story from a friend.
By the way, we have a beer right over there, so feel free to serve yourself.
As in Silicon Valley, there are so many startups pretty much everywhere, and there are like so many people, like as you call it, like, yeah, we are all about titles, right? And so my friend, he was hitting on the girl and on the bar and saying, "Hey, what's up? Do you want to hang out?" Sure. So what's your name? I was like, yeah, I'm Victor. I'm the chief product officer of startup XYZ. And she's like, yeah, but my boyfriend is a CEO. So it's so hard to find somebody who has like just a normal title, like a software engineer.
Yeah. We are just peasants, right? Okay, perfect. So moving on to another topic, please. And feel free to basically Make sure that you add your questions and your situations towards the topics. We would love to see that work. The other topic that we have in front of us is basically the career growth, and I think there's a substantial difference when asking a person from the US about how they handle their career growth and how much, I would say, aggressive they are in that case, versus us from Europe, albeit Central Europe, talking about it and using some sort of career frameworks and performance reviews. Sometimes I see a huge difference that people might be coming from in the US with a non-negotiable counter offer that gets them to increase the salary by 30%, and they are happy about it, right? While in Europe, if you do that, you enter the gray zone, I would say. So let's cover this topic if we may. Loic, please.
First, I will tell like a quick story. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a teacher. My daughter, she's 12, she wants to become like the president of France. So that's the difference of culture, like between the US and San Francisco especially, and probably European people. Like the level of ambition is like through the roof. So that's one. Like everyone wants to be the CEO of the next company that will kill it. And I feel that at least, I have gray hair, but like back in my days in France, the ambition was not that. Like you want to be a good engineer, and that was good enough. So there's that. The second aspect, and something that I've seen, is people don't have the time in the US. In the US, a typical engineer wants to retire at 30. That's the goal. I want to retire at 30. So I will hop, and hopefully I will be on the company that will do an IPO. That's kind of like the end goal of typical engineers. And I would say feel free to tell me if you met the same type of people, but that's very true. And the consequence of that is it's totally normal in the Bay to hop jobs every 2 years and a half. Like the average tenure in a company is like, after 1 year, if you see that you're not making a dent and you're not growing fast enough because there's better people, you switch, you change companies because you don't have the time. And if you're successful and you get promoted after 2 years and a half, beam, that's the time to switch to another company. So that's very interesting. Like in France, you can stay 10 years in the same company, that's totally fine. The other aspect that is totally different also is like when you negotiate your salary, like people in Czech Republic, they focus on the cash.
Yep.
Equity, yeah, sure. In the US, cash is like, yeah, sure. What about the equity? Because in the Bay Area, everyone knows at least one person that made a bunch of money through an IPO. At my time in France, I didn't know anyone that made some money through an IPO. So of course I was focusing on cash. So like that's also like a big difference.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, just maybe to edit a little bit from different perspective. I believe I got the best advice for the career grow back in the times, I don't know, it was maybe 20 years now when I started here in the Czech Microsoft. And I asked my friend, so what did you do that you are so successful that you are part of the management team, Microsoft? And he was like, I don't know, I just kept working. And since then, I remember that because I don't think there is any secret that if you do this, you will get promoted, and if you do this, you will get to the next level. Just focus on what you have passion for, where you can really go deep, and make sure you align it with the company you are working for. Because if you are really senior, smart developer, you can go really deep, you can build and deliver amazing things. And this specific company is not working out for you. I guarantee you there is 100 other companies where you can be really successful. And I saw many people that Loic described that they are jumping from one company to another. For me, it's the same. I like to call myself sometimes the most famous Czech fluktuant because I've been with so many companies. But the real reason why I jumped, I haven't changed my salary for many years. It's been pretty much the same. but equity was there for sure. But most importantly, it was this new domain I could learn, because I was so passionate about the projects, the mission the companies have, about the phase I was in with a specific company, that maybe it was too easy or I wasn't a good fit. So that was my primary motivation, to find what I have passion for, that I can learn something new, that I can move forward and just keep working, just keep making impact, delivering the value, and the career growth will come. I guarantee it. I haven't met anybody who was this strategy would fail.
I love it, and basically we talk about getting the shit done, right? That's all what it encounters, and I think here we can find a very good balance in between both of the aspects. Meaning, we don't necessarily have to be hyper aggressive in the US style, while we don't really need to be sort of passive in the Central European style. For example, my experience is that what I used to do is that I was moving constantly from one company to another in case that I haven't seen the leader worth following, or I basically encountered all the topics I could, and there was nothing more that I could absorb. So that is the time when sort of you move on. In Czech Republic or Central Europe, we all sort of have the impression of, okay, now it gets stable, so like I can stay here forever and pay my mortgage. You know what I mean? That's something that turns you into an employee. And what I want to see you is turn yourself into an asset, and that's a big difference, I think.
Another difference that I've seen in the US, so for one, they're very structured about their career. Like, they don't expect their manager to manage their career. I would say they are actors of their own career. Like, they drive their career, and like regardless of who the manager is. So probably you won't hear like someone say, "Oh, I'm not promoted because of my manager." Like, I would get promoted, and if it's not the right manager, I'm gone. So like very active in this approach. The other aspect is also like I've seen that in France. I don't see that much in CZ, but in France, people were like, "What is my job description?" And this is the work that I will do. And if it's outside of it, let's talk about like the money and everything. While in the US, like, you can call me whatever. I don't care if I'm staff, not staff, or whatever. What are the problems that I need to solve? Coming back to the get things done, I will solve it. Even if it's not in my purview, I will fucking do it. Then I expect some recognition. But like, they basically don't try to negotiate the recognition in advance of doing the work. They will do the work and expect you to, I would say, be like on top of it and recognize it.
That's a very good example, especially in the banking sector, I guess. Because in Czech Republic, exactly in Central Europe, the contracts and the conditions are very strict, and if you try to go over it, then you might potentially end up having some fines and having some court negotiations. But
that's why I don't work in the banking industry.
Yeah, we do have a choice, right? That's basically it. Perfect. So with that in mind, let us move to another topic. Hopefully you are still with us. By the way, you are free to take your beer, your beverages, whatever you have on your mind. We still have two, I guess, last topics, and then we will slightly move towards the Q&A. So I'm really looking forward for your questions and voting. So now let's turn into the topic of working remotely across the ocean with different teams. And I think most of us are here from the situations and the companies having the background that a couple of teams are coming from US, a couple of teams might be coming from Tokyo, the other couple of teams from CZ, and so on and so forth. And this topic is really important, including the time zone differences and so on and so forth. So how do you manage the teams? How do you balance them out? How do you make sure that they sort of successfully communicate instead of like sending emails one to another that now it's your turn to accomplish something? So I'm really curious about your answers, gentlemen.
Sure. Yeah. One important aspect from my perspective, how to make a remote team successful, is to make sure the remote team is kind of a full stack team. What I saw that was an ideal setup. There's you have one member here, another member in the different time zone, and another member in another time zone. And what's even worse, not having a good framework how to collaborate. But the teams I saw that were really high performing were the teams that can deliver the whole project, the whole feature, or whatever they were responsible for, end to end, that there were no dependencies. So when I would be setting up the remote teams, I would focus on this, like how to make sure you can deliver end to end, and you can basically cut the dependencies on another time zone and other teams, etc. In general, having remote teams, remote colleagues, I don't have a strong opinion because I've seen it working very well. So I honestly believe if people are happy and they are owning things and delivering value, it's their choice. However, I saw also other examples when it didn't work that well. Maybe one point of that on the remote work is where I saw the biggest struggle was the leadership of the remote teams, that they were not able basically to tell the teams, hey guys, this is really important launch, we need to get together, so no remote, let's get together, I will pay you hotel or whatever, or be very explicit what I expect from the team members. So remote work on its own, no problem, but let's make sure you have a good structure, you have a good assignment or without any dependency, and strong leadership that's not afraid to make the tough calls.
Yeah, over to you, Loic.
I would love to say that, so ProductBoard, we have a team in SF, and the majority of the team in CZ, and some folks in Europe. And I would love to say that we solved it and we're great, but my team is here, so I cannot lie. So it's a work in progress. Big plus one on having like time zone aligned people working on the same stuff. So sorry, Dominic, I don't know if Dominic is here because he has a team that is split between SF and San Francisco. That will be a challenge, and we know it. But yeah, being aligned in the same time zone and capacity to deliver is critical. And that's something that at ProductBoard we are still working out, because the team in SF is working on a core mission. That's another piece that is important. It needs to be core, because if it's not core to your product, basically, like in that case, it will be easy to let that satellite die. But like if it's core to your product, you have a strong incentive to make them successful. So that was part of the reasoning of what we've done at ProductBoard. But you have to work on it all the time. It's never easy. And I've done that in like many companies, and I've never found like the perfect setup. But like the strong leader and mission aligned and limiting the cross dependencies is really key. The second aspect that I wanted to mention is like we need to make a difference between remote and distributed. So like here we're talking mostly about like distributed teams. Remote is also like another level of craziness, and
we can come to it.
Yeah. I have a bunch of at ProductBoard we have a bunch of people that are remote in a company that is office centric, and it's not easy. It's not easy because as a remote person, you feel like a second-class citizen. And bridging that gap is fucking crazy hard. So I apologize to the people that are remote at ProductBoard, but I know it's not easy. So like I make the difference between remote and distributed.
Okay, perfect. By the way, I don't want to keep it just over here, because I think there's a couple of questions around the topic of, and again, coming back to the remote versus office. Like, so what's your preference? What's your experience in seeing like, the remote works? Or
we'd be in trouble.
Or again, like, so why the hell is Amazon doing like 3+2? Or why can some of the companies do the full remote? Why some of the engineering managers or the CEO is deciding that we can do only 4+1 because I don't trust my people eventually or something? So how do you see that from your perspective?
I was going to say that Amazon is no longer 3+2, it's 5+0.
No bullshit, please.
But I believe it's really up to the company, the founder, the leadership of the company, because at the end of the day, it's really their call, because they're responsible for driving the vision, delivering the product, proving to the market that they can be successful. If they need a team in-house, they will have the team in-house. If they feel like distributed is better and they want to provide more flexibility to the employees, it's their choice. I honestly don't believe there is a one single true point that
silver bullets,
that this is the only right way. So I kind of from my experiences at SpaceX, I can only kind of plus one, what Elon Musk say, if you wanna fly to Mars, you are not going to do it over Zoom. And it's really that clear, because you need to be there together, you need to brainstorm together, you need to walk to the, I don't know, starships and fix it on the starship. You need to work with the propulsion team or that team. And it's so intense, and it's really almost around the clock, that like making sure that you are in the Zoom, you come right on the time, there's an available meeting room, people can be really hands-on, you don't need to ask if you are remote, hey, can you walk there and do this for me? Those are really moments that are slowing progress down. And again, it's up to the company, up to the leadership, how fast they want to go, what's important for them, and what they believe is most effective.
Nice. By the way, cutting down the bullshit, David. So you are from Rohlik CZ. So what's your operating model? Is it 3+2, 5+0, or
no.
be aggressive?
We have in our team, we have 3+2, and we are trying to make sure that the teams or team members are picking the time when everybody is together. I can see many colleagues that are there every day. Some people are using the remote option. Personally, I've been there most of the week since I started, and my family is complaining about it. So I need to fix it somehow. At the same time, I can't imagine working from home more than 2 days a week, because I just wouldn't feel connected with the team, with my peers, with the other teams. I just need to feel the pulse of the company.
Thank you.
So I will get into trouble if this is recorded. So my previous company, we were fully remote and distributed, fully remote, worked well. But again, the full company was aligned on it. You were mentioning like the founder. If the founder is a believer that remote can work, then you can build your systems, communication style and everything the right way, and you hire people that are compatible with it. Some people are just not compatible for being remote. Now, ProductBoard, so it's an interesting story. Most of the teams were coming in the office like 4 days a week. And then we have a mandate that is coming very top down and say, 3 days a week in the office. Like, but we were coming 4 days a week. You mandate 3, we'll come 2. And so that was a really good learning for me, like how easy people are thinking about like your leadership and mandates. Anyway, so we are 3+2. But another anecdotal piece, I'm very close to the board members of ProductBoard, and I remember one basically saying, guys, you're mandating 3 days a week. We have some portfolio companies that are doing 6 days a week. It's like, okay, I get where you're getting. But then, it depends on the stage of the company. The earlier, like seed stage, Series A, you want to move fast, you're iterating like super fast in terms of like product market fit and everything. Probably you want to be in the same room because whiteboarding, because like I would say pair development, pair programming and everything, like you want to move fast. When you're more mature, your process is here, probably you can like extend that and say like, you know what, now we can, I would say, be more like loose, like in the office presence. Yeah, that's it.
Perfect. Okay. David?
Just one more anecdote from Netflix times, way before COVID. We had a leadership change, and suddenly our team was reporting to the Netflix VP, and one guy raised a hand. So what's the work from home policy here? And the VP answered, yeah, I'm super flexible. For example, myself, I'm working every Saturday and Sunday. So it really depends as long as you can deliver. I'm just curious, can you raise your hand if anybody from here is coming to the office consistently 5 days a week and you like it? When you like it? And yeah, so still pretty decent amount of people still prefer it, so yeah.
And one of the things that is also important is, so I love the Spotify, like Spotify commented on it like 3 weeks ago, and they said, hey, we're managing adults. So that was nice. So when you mentioned Amazon and the 5 days a week, Amazon is not doing it because they're not managing adults. They're doing it because they want people to be like out of the company. So it's a way for them to do like a silent layoff. Now, coming back on the setup, I think it's at the team unit level that it makes sense. Like in the same company, you can have like fully remote teams or like fully on-prem team. But once you have like a gravity center somewhere, I mean, the manager needs to really understand, like when they hire, like I'm hiring big because like for like an on-prem team, on-site team, or I would say most of my people are remote. So like the next person that I will bring needs to fit in that model as well. And the worst is being hybrid, because like super hard to manage, like communication-wise and everything. There's always someone that feels out of the loop, and that's super hard to manage.
Yeah.
What I love most about this hybrid setup is when I'm the only guy in the office, the rest of the team is remote. They call a meeting and they don't book me a meeting room. So every meeting I have to search where is the next available meeting room. But one thing I would add there, and it would be a little bit controversial, like or a different point of view. If a company like Amazon forces you to come 5 days a week into the office, I read this LinkedIn post from the principal engineer or VP of Amazon that he basically started with, while I disagree with this policy and I still believe that I can be more proactive at home, I will disagree and commit and follow all our leadership principles, and I will come to the office every day, even though it's taking me 2 hours drive one way, 2 hours drive the other way, because I can be so productive and do so much work in the car while listening to podcasts and making my phone calls. I believe that's the bullshit. You have one life and enjoy it. So make sure every hour counts. And if remote doesn't work for you, just doesn't. As I mentioned in the beginning, if you are capable, you can you can find better fit somewhere else. And that would be, for me at least, my biggest advice, basically to follow your life as well. It's not about remote, non-reward, etc. There are options in life, so leverage them.
Yeah, so this is a great message, because sometimes what we see is that people are not keen to make the decisions on their own, which is surprising to some degree. Nevertheless, it's not like some sort of I call it a master-slave relationship. It's a win-win. It's a partnering that we build and we come into. So we are half of the contract, and therefore we are eligible to make the decision, right? And the other aspect that I want to highlight here is that we see that, and that it's totally fine that sometimes we are complaining about the model 3+2, 4+1, 5.0, or whatever. Nevertheless, keep in mind it's part of the strategy, and still you have the full privilege to decide one or either way to be part of that momentum situation or not. Perfect. Cool. So I promise moving to, before we start with the Q&A, and I see we have a couple of questions already, moving to the very last topic, which is how about you guys adopting to the new culture? What was your experience in there, moving to, whatever, US, CZ, or how was it? How was it for you? What were the things that you already had in mind to accomplish in order to make sure that you get well established? Meaning, you go for a beer in Prague or something, or how was it? Tell us.
So again, my team is here, so they might have like a lot of comments on here on this. But I'm a reader. I read a lot of books. So when I would say I was onboarded at ProductBoard. So for one, you need to come and you need to meet people and spend some time and everything. But I asked for like books recommendation to understand like the Czech culture. So I was lucky to read like Kundera and The Czech Soldier, which was like very interesting about like the Czech humor for one, but how they treat leadership. So it was like really interesting for me to understand how, and I mean, it's a caricature, so please don't take it personally.
How to win the war with Schweik.
But like, if you come as a leader here and you have read those 2 books, people will basically like, yeah, that guy is bullshit because it's a leader, so by definition it's bullshit. And on top, I was coming from the US, so I mean, I was kind of like aggregating two stuff. But reading about like the people's culture, I think that helps a lot with like one, the humility, like because you understand like, holy shit, I don't know those people. Because my first reaction was like, oh, we're European, we're the same. We're not. We are not. So yeah, that was for me like a really good way to be introduced to the Czech culture.
Yeah.
But it's still a work in progress.
Including your French dialect, right? Over to you, David.
So when I came back from US to Kiwi.com, basically it was the primary culture shock for me was that I was with all these big companies or established companies, and they had certain ways how they operate, how they work. Everything had a system, and then I joined a startup, really fast-paced startup and a really growing startup. And you can see how many things still has to be developed or what's not working ideally. And for me, initially, it was a culture shock. And then after a while, I actually fell in love in this setup that actually, if you are with the company that's on the trajectory, that's the opportunity where you can make the highest impact. You can change something for good. So I had to basically figure out where I can leverage my experiences and understand where I can provide some benefits to these companies. So that was my adjustment, and figure out like, okay, don't expect that what I saw elsewhere will work here, but figure out like how I can help with it. So that was my kind of adoption step by step.
Perfect. So I think we are at the end with our panel talks and the panelists. So I think we can move over towards the Q&A. So let's make it work for us. Basically, so the number one question is for both of us, both of you. Do you think it's still a dream of European tech people to work at Silicon Valley? Is it your dream and the other halves of security when moving to USA? So David, over to you maybe.
So maybe I can start asking the audience. Is it your dream to work in Silicon Valley? Anybody? See? Maybe one. I guess that's the biggest difference, because when I was young, pretty much anybody that I knew wanted to work at Silicon Valley. Many of my friends that we left for Silicon Valley are now back in Czech, that they are happy working for various companies here, starting their own companies, and it's really amazing to see it back. And I'm also super happy with your answer. I'm really happy that we have this strong engineering, technical people community, designers community. They want to stay here and develop something here, and I believe it's fulfilling your dream as well to build mini Silicon Valley. And the question is, what is the Silicon Valley of the future? Is it still this kind of piece of land in the West Coast, or is it something that should be replicated everywhere? And to answer quickly the other part, it was my dream. It was my dream since I was, I believe, 15, that I wanted to experience the environment, the field, the rush of golden rush in Silicon Valley. I read this magazine Chip, maybe some of you remember it, and there was this story about how Hewlett-Packard was started, how Apple was started. It's like, I just want to be part of it. I went there, saw it, made my dream come true, and came back, and I'm really happy here. And the last question, family was excited about it too. It was finding wife with the same motivation that we want to explore the world. Our kids were born there as well, Seattle, Silicon Valley, and Los Angeles. So we experienced all the hospitals on the coast, and it was perfect. So yeah. But now I am super happy to be here, and super happy again to be with this community that want to build something here.
Woo. Okay. How about you, Loic?
It was not my dream. I didn't want to go, but I was acquired. And the team in the US was sort of like pulling me. And coming back to my wife, like she had a pretty nice career on television in France. So like for 2 years I was like, no, fuck it. Like I'm staying in France, I'm fine and everything. And then my wife was like, oh, fuck it. I'm sorry with the fuck it, pardon my French. But she was done. She was like, hey, I need some fresh air. So we said, you know what? Let's get there for 3 years because it will be cool for the kids. They will speak English. So that was the mindset at the time. I didn't go because it was the Silicon Valley. I was going there because it would be cool for my kids to learn a new language, which they learned by now. But it's been 7 years, and I don't plan to go back to France right now. Still planning to go back at some point, and I will explain why. I still think that the Silicon Valley is the best MBA you can do as an engineer or engineering leader. Like, you have access to the brightest, like the density of quality is mind-blowing. Like in Paris, I felt like I don't know the CZ enough, but like in Paris, I felt relatively okay like with my brain. Like I was like, yeah, I'm smart. And then you get there, I was like, holy shit, I'm fucking stupid. and basically being, I would say, talking almost like on a daily basis with people that are so much like with a different culture and different level of engagement and how they want to change the world and everything. And you have the best, or a good portion of the best people in the world working in the tech industry, they're there. It's mind-blowing. Like, it's really mind-blowing.
Yep.
And it's great that you're starting something like this here, but I would still strongly suggest people, if they have the opportunity to do like 2-3 years, take like the MBA experience and then go back, because it's crazy good. It's crazy good.
Yeah. Just a small comment on that from my side. Was traveling throughout the US, Switzerland, and so on and so forth. And these days I'm saying that, the Czech Republic is, I would say, a golden ratio in between like the work-life balance and everything, including, the wage and all the things. Nevertheless, it's really great to have that experience working in Silicon Valley for a couple of years. And exactly, I have to say the very same impression of, I think I was brilliant. No. I was really stupid compared to others, right? Perfect. Moving on to another one. Rohlik versus ProductBoard. Who's going to do IPO first? That's a very serious thing that we move over.
That's an interesting question. I will switch the question. I don't talk about IPO event. I talk about liquidity event, which is totally different. Or at least there's more opportunity to have an equity event than an IPO event. What does that mean? Is that when you work for a private company, you have some equity, which is funny money, until it's not. And it's not when you have a liquidity event. A liquidity event could be another round of raising, like you can raise a Series D, a Series E, a Series F, potentially. And those are always time where you can potentially trade your stock or your equity at that moment. You can be acquired. Like, it's also like a good exit strategy. Like, moving to an IPO is not the, I would say, the ultimate goal. It's one of those, I would say, potentials. And just for the fun nut, I have a friend that is a CEO of a small company, and they're 25 in SF. They're making 50 million of ARR.
Wow.
And I was basically my friend, like, oh, okay, so you raise some money and you will get to the IPO. I was like, what the fuck? No, I don't need it. I'm making a bunch of money, and so is my team. Like, okay, that's a different perspective. So IPO is not the only option.
Yeah.
And I totally didn't answer the question.
I can see that.
That's pretty diplomatic. Okay.
Yeah,
about you, David?
Honestly, I don't know who will IPO first, and I mean, just to iterate a bit on the liquidity events at SpaceX that never IPO'd, and it's the most valuable, still privately held company. We had liquidity events twice a year when the company was working. When we blew up the rocket, it was paused for a year or two, and it really made a difference, because IPO, I guess it's really not that important question unless company needs the money, unless you need to raise more money, unless you need to pay out the employees so they can make some money. What really matters, at least from my perspective, and I believe from yours as well, that again, you live your life, you have your life events, and you should have the opportunity for your hard work to liquidate some of your stocks, or to make some money to buy a house, or to travel the world, or I don't know, to donate something to charity. And many people look at the IPO event that, okay, this is the ultimate goal, and it's not. I know it's not very commonly shared, but again, having the MBA, as you call it, in the Silicon Valley, go to the beer restaurants or grab a coffee and ask people if they went through IPO. Some of them, yes, they made a lot of money, but there are so many people that stayed with the company through the IPO and made nothing. So if you have a look how many IPOs were successful, have a look at how many IPOs were not successful. And I believe from the employee perspective, what really matters are those liquidity events. If this is something that you want, if you want to keep your stake forever, be the company guest for sure. But at the same time, I believe what people expect from the IPO is getting these liquidity events, and there are many ways how this can be achieved.
And I want to double down on that because I was part, for example, of the company Muse, again, one of the unicorns in Central Europe. This company hasn't gone through the IPO yet. Nevertheless, what offered was some sort of liquidity events throughout the Series A, Series B, and Series C, which made me happy ultimately, because if you are going through your contract of eventually owning some of the stock options and vesting into it, that is one thing. But the other thing is just make sure that there are some liquidity events that are written down into the contract. Otherwise, it's just virtual money that might end up sometimes, hopefully, on your account in far future. Yeah.
And sometimes it's a virtual money that you still have to invest into to keep them.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, moving on. Your biggest regret in your life? Oh, Jesus. Let's keep it professional. Professionally wise.
I can start. It's very simple for me because I spent way too many years at Microsoft. When I graduated from the college, I joined Microsoft right away in Prague. I spent here 3 years. Then I moved to US for 4 years. And for me, it was a really easy job. But as I mentioned in the beginning, then I realized towards the end of my career there that it was a little bit of the dead end. I was in my 20s. And what I can see today, some of the success stories of the founders, when I'm, giving a speech at the university or something, and I see the potential what the people in those years, what are the opportunities for them, I was really stupid. I spent there way too much time on a very kind of boring job.
Yep. Thank you. So your biggest regret?
This is a tough question.
I know.
This is a tough question. I've made a lot of mistakes, but I don't think that I regret really anything, because at the end of the day, it's kind of like a pathos, but it makes you who you are. Mm-hmm. I guess nothing is worth you being miserable. So that's kind of like joining your comment, staying too long at Microsoft. I feel lucky, and maybe that's not a regret, but I think that I was lucky along my career, and I made some choices based on guts. I probably would do the same choices now with everything that I've learned, but nice. I would do it probably more thinking about it. I've been lucky, I switched companies, and the company, I've been lucky, I've been acquired, I've been lucky, the company made IPO, but my part of that, probably not a lot. So, no, I need to think more, or more beers, maybe.
Yeah, thank you.
I will.
Okay, so eventually moving on, and we have a really interesting question, which is about how to build. What's the best way to build relationships with your colleagues and managers, across the globe, US, CZ, and please, if you really can share the real stories and the tips that worked for you, no generic bullshit.
One thing that I've learned, because when I was acquired by DocuSign, my manager was in the US and I was in France, 9 hours of time zone difference. And I was always the one making the effort and taking meetings at 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m. And sometimes the manager won't show up for whatever reason. I was holy shit, So I felt a bit miserable at that time. One of the reasons I decided to move to SF, by the way. And now that I'm working with people in CZ, I'm trying, again, keep me honest, but I'm trying to make the effort on my side. So my first meeting is at 6:30 in the morning in SF, so that people don't have to basically work at 7 p.m.
Yeah.
And I do believe those are the small stuff that show that you care, that you understand their context, and you're making your own effort to make it work. The other piece, I mean, I mentioned reading, like showing that you really care, you really want to understand, like even learning like a couple of words. But I mean, I'm not great in Czech. I mean, besides like dobre ráno and dobre večer, like, I mean, that's about it. But like making small efforts like this, I think helps. And being honest, I think that's something that is also like very, very important. Is being very direct and trying to build a connection beside the work, beside the execution, trying to really care about the people, try to understand their own context. Do they have a baby? Do they have like troubles in their own? But it's relevant outside of like the time zone differences. But it's even more important where you're 9 hours away and you don't have like this time on the floor to check in. So like making, I would say, being very intense, in trying to know the other person, I do believe makes a difference.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was always the best practice was to work on something together. So it's not necessarily best practice to how to build a relationship with your manager, but it could be with your manager, it can be with your team. But if you work hard on something, then you ship something, then you go and celebrate. It's, for me, unbeatable kind of feeling that we delivered something. I had this experience that I always mention as my kind of probably most important project of my career, which was the autonomous flight termination system of the SpaceX rocket that can actually blow up the rocket autonomously if it's going off the trajectory. It was a very good project. And we worked on it super hard for more than a year. We were in the downs, we were in ups, and then one day it eventually took off, it flew, it successfully nominally finished the mission. We celebrated, we have fond memories. We were invited to dinner with Elon and everything, and it was really amazing, all of these things together. And those people, not only from this project, but the project, we really delivered something big. I'm still in very close contact, and actually quite often these people reach out to me, hey, we are starting this company or we are starting this project, do you want to join us, or vice versa, that you can pull them. So those were the strongest bond, because not only you demonstrated you can deliver, you also supported the team in the tough times, and you celebrated, you had the kind of amazing feeling we did it.
Yeah, perfect. So that's a great example of, again, leading by example here. Perfect. So I think we can keep the rest of the questions, or do we? Okay. So I was told to continue. Okay. So we have another last two questions, which is what you're doing to ensure remote people are successful and not feel like second class citizens, second level citizens. And I think we covered this question already to some degree, but let's be more explicit about it. And I think Loic will destroy.
That's a question for me. And the answer is I don't do enough, for sure. And I don't even, some say that I could say that I don't do shit. That's not true. One, acknowledging the fact that like it's not easy. The second aspect is like we are pretty like making money free for people that want to meet together elsewhere, like for remote people to gather in Prague, to gather elsewhere. Like we have like a lot. Like we kept the the budget open for those people to meet from time to time, because when you're remote, I would say you need that quality time from time to time. Maybe it's once a quarter, maybe it's once every 2 months, but you need that time. Beside that, as I said, like ProductBoard is an office-centric company.
Yep.
We're an office-centric company. So, not much and not enough. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. Okay, fair enough.
Just to quickly add, I believe during the COVID times, we really tried hard at Kiwi.com or at Shipmonk later that we did something extra. We shipped some nice packages to the employees with some stuff, or we helped them with the office furniture if they didn't have any, because it was really tough. You had to stay at home, and maybe sometimes you don't even have the room. I still remember the conference calls, and there were like 3 people in the same room, like roommates, and everybody was on different calls. So there was tough time. On the other hand, in the normal times, I would say I don't make a really big difference between making sure the office employees fits well and feel really good, as well as the remote employees. Because being remote, I understand that sometimes it's not a choice, but at the same time, we are adult, and as we are getting used to these kind of hybrid modes or remote only works, it's basically a must to be able to be successful on my own. Of course, always trying to be respectful, always trying to kind of provide some helping hand. Sometimes like build this extra bonding, asking how are you doing, how's family, etc. Or these events if there are possible. Because many companies, they just don't have such events that they can get together, spend some quality time because there is simply no budget or some other reasons. But my advice would be, let's make sure that we are adult on both ends, the managers and the employees, and we are trying to do our best.
And one thing that is really important is also like having managers that understand that you might be biased against someone that is not on the floor. As much as you do effort to be like outcome driven and looking at KPIs or whatever, like if the person is not with you every day on the floor, you will have a bias when assessing the performance of the person. That person might not be seen by other people. So when you do calibration, that person is technically less visible. So it's harder for a person that is remote to demonstrate their value if the work is not shown or is not exposed. So being explicit about it is like really important. So as managers, you need to understand that this is something. And there's some small stuff as well. When you have like one person that is remote and the rest of the team is in the room, like everyone should join the Zoom and turn the video on.
Yeah.
So that there's no difference. I mean, sure, you don't have the whiteboard as much and everything, but at least everyone is like facing like the Zoom the same way. And always be cautious, because it's very easy to cut people off in the room while the person on the other side is like trying to engage with the conversation, and it's hard. So you need to be like, when you're running a meeting like this, you need to understand that, wait. Hey, David, I was calling from SF. What do you think? And being like explicit like this, because it's very easy to be kind of like shut off from the meeting if you're the one person that is remote.
Yeah, I think we all experience the situation where we are remote and we have our thumb up about that we want to talk about something, or hand up, but we are getting ignored for another 15 minutes. So yeah, that's a very specific example of that. Perfect. The other one for David, how does Elon differ from Mr. Trooper? Not much.
Not a lot. There are actually, without any jokes, there are actually these common things that I was able to kind of experience with all the founders, and there are basically two things. They have super strong and big, bold vision, and they want to achieve something. And I haven't met any professional CEO that would have the same sense of this kind of mission. I want to take it somewhere. And the second thing, they are really in the details. They are super competent about the business they are running. They, in all cases, because they are founders, they build it from scratch, and they pretty much understand everything. So with Elon, the example was that before the launch, the only issue that was flagging on our monitoring system that we were losing some bits on the networking connection, and he actually pinged us and asked what is this connection for, why is this happening, and stuff like that. And that was the first time I was impressed. Like CEO of pretty large companies, not company but companies, he's at this level of detail. And before every launch, he would send us the email, hey guys, don't fuck it up. Here's my phone number. Call me anytime if you feel like that this can go wrong. So owners. And I can feel the same with Tom. The level of detail, the mission, the really making sure that our customers is in the center of our universe. It's really unbeatable what you can learn from the founders from this perspective.
So we are down to the matter of extreme ownership, I guess, in this case. Okay, perfect. The other one, for both of us, does a different culture impact the way the products are built? Example, Agile versus Waterfall, products, projects, and so on and so forth. So maybe over to you, Loic. I guess it's going to be more about the value-based approach.
I've seen some difference. I feel, again, it's based on my anecdotal experience, which is fairly limited. But people in Europe are much more oriented toward the craft. Like the how you build is at least as important as the what. So for example, here, you would have like Ruby engineer. You would have like Kotlin engineer or Java engineer. In SF, I'm hiring product engineers. Polyglots. I don't care about I'm a back-end person. I can pick up like whatever. It will take time, but like I don't care. And I feel that in Europe, we are much more oriented toward the craft itself and like, no, I want to work on Rails or I want to work in Java because I know the ecosystem and I will be like so much faster and blah, blah, blah. Makes sense. So that's one. I would say the different of profiles, I think is very interesting. The second aspect is like, as we have like product engineers, in the Bay Area, you always have this tendency to ship something fast at the cost of the quality. And if it works, that's great. You can fix the quality. If it doesn't work, who cares? So there's always this cost of the opportunity when you're trying to overdo something. And I feel that it was something in my team in France, and we were like very oriented around like the technology, and we were proud of the technology. But we were the team that was acquired by DocuSign, and not the opposite, because they were focusing on delivering the value and not that much on the technology. So we were proud, like our platform was so great. But the reality is like they won the fucking market. So I think that's something that was like very startling to me, that they focus on getting shit done, fake it until you make it. I mean, that's not like you all heard like this, fake it until you make it, but it's true. And it's very present. And so one thing that I mean, just an anecdote, and probably like the people from ProductBoard will probably smile when I will mention that anecdote. But when I came in, probably like 2 months in, I was commenting on our SLAs. ProductBoard was 5 nines. And during an all-hands, I said, guys, this is a freaking bad KPI. That's too good. We're wasting time. People were like, what the fuck? We're proud of those 5 nines. I was like, no, you should not. You should be ashamed. And so that's kind of like something that is like very different in the US. You basically do the minimum that is needed for the market, and you build fast. And if it happens that you start to have like a lot of customers that require to have 5 nines, great, but that's not a problem for now. And that's something that was like really interesting for me.
Yeah, I don't know where to follow on it, but I guess it was the biggest differences that I could spot were comparing the various companies, because it was very different at Microsoft when it was exactly like this kind of waterfall type of approach. I was at Microsoft, I'm that old, when Office 2010 were launching, and it was a project for like 3 or 4 years in making. It was really crazy. It was massive. It was prepared a lot of marketing, communication, etc. Like the teams were all stand up. Like these days, it would be unimaginable. Then on the other hand, working like for the hardware companies, totally different story. How people have to work, how they have to align with the manufacturing, with teams that are working in the space on the guidance and navigation, how everything has to fit together. So I don't think it's necessarily the culture that drives it, but the product that you are working on that really drives was the best approach to build and ship your product, how to operate it. Yeah. And just to follow up on what you mentioned, that we have to be kind of super fast when kind of in Silicon Valley when bringing the product to the market. If you know Robin Raška, mm-hmm. Yeah. Today he posted on LinkedIn that In today's world with all of the AI support and everything, if you are spending more than a day on the MVP, you are in a big trouble. You should start again. So I kind of look at it and I was like, yeah, this is actually the future we are heading into. So it will be more about the speed to the market, but at the same time delivering even the quality on the first try, because you have uncomparable support what we had, I don't know, 20 years ago, 10 years ago.
Yep.
Yeah, and it even applies to your own company, like different teams, different story. Like if, for example, you are on a core piece of the product that is already working and you already have like a lot of customers, probably you want to be like pretty cautious in the way to build. While you have this new product, you just want to hit the market and get shit done fast. So like, it's not like a one size fits all, even within the company. So that's really important to understand. And I should everyone should understand, okay, in what context do I work? What really my customers, from my experience, do they really care about? Do they care about like more features every day? Or do they care about like stability of the platform?
Yep. Just a funny joke out of this. What came to my mind is sometimes I see in the big corporates, like, we do an agile transformation. It's called Agile 2.0. We do it in 2 years and then we are done. Which is, counter situation of agility, in my opinion. But I just keep it for myself. Okay, moving on to the last question, and thank you, Amy, for exposing that this is really the last one. Actually, I like this question. So, do you think your impression of talent density could be influenced by the US culture of, over self-promotion? How do you see that?
I can start. Two things that I want to mention. One is, yes, it's like Harvard, a lot of brilliant, or Stanford, or Berkeley, like those schools, like the brightest people want to get there. So you don't know if the people are bright on the exit because of the school being great or because they are like, I would say, just only selecting the bright people. Yep. Same applies with the Bay Area. Like, yes, you would see like all the cool kids getting there, but as a company, you also want to be there. So like there's like this bias. The other piece, this is where the money is. Like you want to fund a company, you want to raise money. Like it's so much easier to raise money in the Bay Area because they have so much money to basically give to companies that they are like, yeah, sure. What do you mean? Like you need like 50 million, and you're doing AI. Here's a check. While try to do this in Prague or Paris, or like even London, or like in Europe, like, oh, you're doing AI, I think here like 150K. So like. Okay, so I mean that the money that is flowing there is like a big aspect of why like all the companies are getting there. All the best accelerator for startups, whether it is YC, whether it is like plug and play, they are there. So I mean it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, sorry. Thank you.
I would just add there about the talent density and being a little bit sentimental, because I share with you that my dream was always going to the Silicon Valley. That the few years that I spent there, when I went for this beer or when I worked at Netflix, I met people who were original authors of Java, for example. I met people who were making breakthroughs in other technologies. And thanks to Silicon Valley, all of these people were brought together, and you can actually meet them. You can work with them. You can discuss with them. So for me, that was the talent density. I'm not kind of comparing that you have to be an author of Java to be really successful or senior. But for me, that was basically part of my dream, and I never experienced it anywhere else in the world. That you can meet so many people that made a huge difference. They build new patterns. For example, like working with the team that started with the chaos testing in the cloud environments. It was really cool to be part of it and seeing how it's kind of growing. Now it's becoming the standard, how you want to test in production and stuff like that. So those were the moments, and those were the kind of opportunities to meet the people. And I have seen no other place in the world where there would be such a density of such people.
Yep, I'm into that. Perfect. So I think we are good here. And Annie, what's the rest of the talk for us today? So, with that in mind, we can move over, and I think we are at the end with our talk and the panelist. We have a little surprise for you, but before, I want to thank to both of you, Loic and David, for being part of that and sharing your no bullshit theories. So thank you for that, and big applause.